Hello and welcome again to another Friday episode of Positive Solutions for Life. Today's guest is Andrea Gharritt. Andrea is the human behind the Bold Life Design, a coaching and consulting practice centered around enabling bold leaders and high achievers to play big, own their story, and go after their most audacious goals for more purpose, impact, and joy. As an executive fulfillment and leadership coach, transformational life and purpose coach, human-centric culture building consultant, and intuitive eating dietitian, Andrea has worked with over 2,500 humans, from executives to college grads. Her passion is to support individuals in letting go of everything that is keeping them from playing small. So welcome to the podcast, Andrea.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited for our conversation. And with that, can you share a little bit more about your personal journey and how it has led to where you are today?
Yeah, I'm a child of the 90s growing up in the Midwest. I was born in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I feel like when I think about from a career trajectory, one of the most informative parts of that for me was being a child growing up in a larger body than all of, my friends and people in my circle, and really rumbling with that relationship with myself, with worthiness and enoughness. I mean, this is in the era of like heroin chic. So I
Mhm.
didn't have a lot of role modeling at that point, as many of us who grew up in that era and eras before that, around what it meant to, have diverse bodies and to feel healthy and well and whole. And when I think about my journey to where I currently am, there was, in undergrad, I was an exercise science major. In my grad school, yes, there was, public health track to it, but there's also registered dietetic track to it. And when I got really honest with myself, a lot of that was gathering tools, skills, and resources in order to make my own body small, to make my own body what is conventionally beautiful or appropriate or enough. And it wasn't really until kind of those first few semesters of grad school where I was learning in my public health classes about social determinants of health and all of these broader themes around what makes a person well and what makes a person feel whole, and really exploring within myself that, for a lot of decades for me, it was, exercise out and food in, and that plus and minus, and really just trying to make that balance come equal for me, or, have a deficit rather. And I started to explore, what is this broader theme around whole person wellness? And within my dietetics practice, moving into a space where I was coaching others and starting to, really dive in very early on, and having this clear understanding that people's relationship with food and body and how they take care of themselves,
Mhm.
especially these like incredible high achieving women that I was working with, it was significantly more about their relationship with perfectionism and worthiness and imposter syndrome and stress resilience, all of these other themes that actually didn't have a whole lot to do with food. That was kind of almost like the canary in the coal mine, if you will, for some of these other places where there was misalignment.
Mhm.
And so early on in my practice, I've had my business for 8 years. I've been coaching for about 15. Really starting to peel back these layers and realize, oh, I need a broader scope in how I work with these humans. And so that's where my journey towards leadership coaching and fulfillment coaching and purpose
Mhm.
coaching, really gathering lots of tools and resources to be able to, yes, talk about food, talk about relationship with body, but making sure that we're starting with this like 30,000 foot perspective of your life first. And
Mhm.
how does how you tend to your vessel empower that? So I see myself in every woman that I work with. I feel that story very personally.
Mhm. Yeah, and it comes out in your passion when you're talking about it. And you talked about in your bio, you're an intuitive eating dietitian, and I'm curious about that, but how that relates to, your journey of starting out with, food, exercise, the ins and outs, trying to like get that deficit going. And I think a lot of us still have that mentality, but you're moving towards that whole purpose, that whole person as in their purpose. And so, first off, what is intuitive eating? Uh, just give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a framework that is really, it's not another set of rules. It's a set of pillars or guidelines to help bridge the relationship that you have with food and your body to make it more grounded in your knowing, your sense of self, your relationship with your body and what your body needs. And so the first pillar of it is rejecting diet culture. It is really getting very clear on the context and getting honest, frankly, on the context that has informed where and how and why you've potentially arrived at this place of feeling misalignment, or not necessarily eating disorder, but disordered eating practices.
Mhm.
Understanding the water that we swim in collectively, yes, as humans everywhere, but especially women and non-binary humans, there's a lot of systems at play to keep us kind of in this place of constriction and playing small, and putting a lot of, frankly, time and energetic resources into making our bodies and beauty good enough.
Right, right. And I see a connection between, us feeling like unworthy or
Mhm.
misaligned. And then it usually, I feel like it comes out in like those disordered eating, like, or that focus on, oh, that's the thing that we can focus on. But really underneath that, it is that worthiness, or like you said, feeling good about yourself in whatever way that is, and figuring out yourself. So can you touch a little
Mhm.
bit on that?
Yeah, I think, in my experience and a lot of the humans that I get to the pleasure of working with, food is one of the first places where you feel like you have any sort of control or any sort of means of comforting. When we think back to early childhood experiences, whatever that looks like, food was maybe one of the few resources you had to comfort yourself, to navigate a challenging situation, to work through some hard emotions when you didn't really have the context or the executive functioning to do so.
Mhm.
And so we get to really honor that early relationship with food, and even how, yes, those patterns may not be serving you as an adult, but my goodness, thank you to that early version of you that resourced themselves really strategically with what they had in order to find that comfort, to move through we didn't have language for it, but probably some self-compassion of like, this is what I'm feeling I need right now. And so
Mhm.
as adults, it's a, how do we recognize that, how do we honor that, and how do we reclaim, okay, what is the relationship that we do want with food, how we nourish ourselves in this whole
Mhm.
person sort of way.
Yeah, because that is just a direct, like, I just remember like giving a presentation one time, and I was like, you know what? If you're really, really wanting a Reese's peanut butter cup, like, have it, but don't beat yourself up over it. Like, we have to
Yeah.
honor like what we're feeling and needing. Hey, if that's just what you need to like get over the day, but don't beat yourself up. Don't
Mhm.
add insult to injury because we know it's not the best for us. There's other choices, but okay, let's go with it. Right.
Yeah.
And so is that kind of what you're talking about a little bit, is just honoring yourself and where you're at, and then finding new things that you can do to.
Yes, it's, this unconditional, you're an adult, right? You can make choices governed by no one else but you. And so that unconditional permission to eat and to enjoy foods, and to give that permission also gives space to jump out of that deprivation, overcompensation, punishment cycle that so many of us have felt trapped in. When you give yourself that permission, foods are no longer glittery. Foods no longer have that, oh, I can't trust myself sort of quality to them. There's a capacity to build a more stable relationship with all foods.
Mhm.
And in parallel, building other relationship and mechanism with, okay, how do I first build awareness of what am I feeling? Like, what
Mhm.
is the thing that food is helping me tend to? Getting more clarity and language around what's the emotion, what's the experience, what is the context, what am I feeling?
Mhm.
And I'm an adult. What other choices do I have in order to tend to that experience?
Right.
Food, yes, has served me or maybe not served me in certain ways, and certainly still does. We still all emotionally eat. If you've ever had birthday cake after a birthday meal when you're not actually hungry, but you want to be a part of the celebration, right? There's the emotional hunger, there's the taste hunger, just wanting to enjoy something. And then
Mhm.
there's physical hunger. And it's starting to build relationship with those different parts of you and those different parts of your hunger.
Right.
And what does it mean to give yourself permission to navigate all of those things?
Yeah, because they are very different.
They are very different and they exist for all of us, but we're taught, especially as women, to only adhere to this like physical hunger. And in fact, if you are not always hungry, you might be doing it wrong.
So as people move on and you are a leadership, bold leadership, you want to help people with their goals. How do you help them figure out those things with their purpose and aligning their goals with that?
We're so in the weeds of our life. I think that what most people are needing is just a safe, playful playground, frankly, to strategic playground to hover above those weeds, take a 30,000 foot perspective and from a lot of different angles, whether that be guided visioning or reflection or journal prompts or asking strategic questions, is trying to peel back the layers of yourself that have not, they're not there. They just might have a few, we just might need to excavate it. And so just
Mhm.
giving people safe strategic space to do that discovery and exploration is really powerful because their lives are really noisy. And so if we
Yeah.
can just take a step back from all that noise and get quiet, there's a lot of wisdom that our bodies hold and that our intuition holds.
What are a couple ways that you help, somebody peel back those layers or uncover or excavate whatever's underneath, to bring out their more fulfilling life and maybe some more joy and happiness instead of being stuck in the weeds?
Mm-hmm. Usually, I mean, there's a whole host of tools, and it kind of
Right.
depends on how that person, where they are in their own journey and what they resonate with. But I usually start with kind of some similar places that we begin around guided visioning. So really getting somebody to that place of quiet within themselves, quiet within their bodies, some stillness,
Mhm.
and then really walking through that journey of what do you want your life to look like in the next 2 to 3 years, and
Mhm.
more importantly, what do you want your life to feel like, and getting more language and clarity. And I always say it might feel like a Monet or it might feel really pixelated, but if you can really
Mhm.
tune into what was the feeling when I
Mhm.
asked about career, what was the feeling when I asked about relationship with your body, what was the feeling when I asked about your relationships with your romantic partners or friends or community, really getting into a place of what does a successful life feel like for me, and starting to define that,
Mhm.
asking questions like, what does enough mean to you? I think that, as to your point before, women, I mean, the system's built this way for us to constantly be scraping at enoughness, to be scraping at belonging, and really coming home to that for yourself within yourself. That's where your power lies. Women who trust themselves and trust their version of success, their version of enoughness, I mean, those women change the world, whether it's the world within your home, the world within your community, or broader. And so,
Right.
really coming to this work from a place of what do you need to really ground yourself in this is who I am and this is what I want. And then from there, building the courage capacity to give yourself permission to live and honor that.
Right, right. Because we often are so busy just doing things, whether it's doing
Mhm.
work, it's doing family stuff. I know I've been just swamped, it seems like this summer with kids' activities and things, but that's just the season we're in. And
Mhm.
sometimes we need to take that step back to be really asking ourselves those questions like, what do I really want? Like, what is enough? Like, and uncovering those feelings. So why is it so important to uncover the feelings of whatever it is that you're wanting, or because I feel like it's really important.
Yeah, it is really important. And the reason I go towards the feeling first and foremost, or make that the pinnacle of what we're moving towards, is we're so inundated with what a successful life should look like. And I'm using quotes because I
Mhm.
think that there is, right, like Instagram and TikTok and all the places, LinkedIn, where there's a lot of posturing, a lot of smoke and mirrors. We're very clear on what success could look like.
Right.
And the reality is, if that version of success, if you get there and it looks exactly like so and so, or exactly like how you thought it should look, and you still don't feel successful, that's not you that's broken. That's that design around your version, that version of success that's broken for you. So,
Mhm.
starting from a place of what do I want my life? What do I want my career, my vocation, my business? What do I want all of that to feel like is a much truer compass for us to move forward with.
Mhm. Yeah. And how does that relate? I know I want to go back to like your thought earlier about worthiness.
Mm.
Like, can you unpack that a little bit and how does that relate to these feelings?
Yeah. Oh, worthiness, just like that little chestnut. Like that's, right there. I feel like honestly, worthiness is maybe the umbrella under which all of my work lives.
Okay.
It's this coming home to inherent worthiness. I think as women, we're again scraping for that belonging, scraping for that enoughness, scraping for worthiness from an external place,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that if we do enough, if we perform enough, if we get thin enough, if we're beautiful enough, that we will get that external validation that we are in fact worthy. Ooh, and we all, I think I can speak for you and I and for,
Mm-hmm.
audience everywhere. I think that that is where the root of a lot of our suffering is this constant need of external validation, this constant need of external,
Mm-hmm.
grounded in worthiness, because it's not there and it's elusive and it
Yeah.
doesn't really ever come, or if it does, it's very fleeting. And then the finish line changes again, right?
Right.
We even just the beauty metrics. I don't know if you've seen any of those videos of how the standard of beauty that's changed from, ancient Egyptians, all the way to present day. It's like we've got 700 billion different iterations of what's beautiful. No wonder women are constantly feeling less than.
Right.
And it's this whole reminder of, oh, there's the internal work. I need to feel worthy within myself. I need to feel at home within this body, within this being, within this purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and to live with that unapologetically. And I say those things, and I am not being flippant about
Mm-hmm.
the challenge that comes with making that commitment with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where true happiness, that's where true sustainable joy lives.
Right. Because we are all unique human beings. So how can we copy somebody else and be, worthy of that? Because it's just a copy. It's a fake
Right.
of fake of somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and we're
Mm-hmm.
not being really true and authentic to ourselves. So you do truly believe that is, like you said, it's like the umbrella. It's that feeling of
Mm-hmm.
unworthiness, is we have to unpack that and figure out our purpose and figure out, what makes us alive, and what,
That's right.
being being true to ourselves.
Yeah. And if we don't do that, we are spending our whole lives scraping for something that was never somebody else's to give us. It
Mhm.
was always ours to give ourselves. And so that
Right.
is a big part of my work, is really helping women and supporting women to bridge that relationship. I say I'm a conduit for your highest wisdom self. It
Mhm.
is for my job to create space for you to build relationship with your intuition, with your self-trust, with this deep inner knowing of you that you are already enough, that you are already worthy.
Right. Right. So with that, like, how do people get a hold of you to work with you? Like, what would they expect for, hey, Andrea, like, I want to work with you. Like, what can they expect?
Yeah, well, I have underneath my coaching umbrella, I have my joy and success coaching for leaders and founders. That's at the Bold Life Design, so the BLD.com. And then I have, and you can find this through that, but I also have Bold Body Peace, which is specific to my food and body peace coaching. So if that is feeling like more of a juicy, tender point for you, that might be
Mhm.
a better space to come into. And it's me in all of it. So how that looks is you come with a conversation and you schedule that discovery call. It's a really great opportunity for us to get to know each other. I like to say it's a place for us to ask questions, both back and forth, for us to share stories, and for us both to gut check.
Mhm.
And if and only if it feels like, ooh, there's reciprocity of a vibe or an energy or that connection, right?
Mhm.
Because coaching is it's an intimate relationship. There's
Mhm.
a high level of trust and
Yeah.
honesty that's required within that. And so I want to make sure that that's felt in both directions.
Mhm.
And if that's there, then we'll talk about what's possible with coaching and what program potentially might be of highest benefit to where you're at in
Yeah.
that. But really, it starts with that initial conversation. And there's a lot of, lots of different types of coaches. So I can only speak to the type of coach that I am. I really feel like coaching should not be a place of pressure or a place of pushing in a way that's not safe. So yes, I will challenge in that
Mhm.
conversation, but it is a sales conversation only if you are ready for it, only if
Mhm.
you are ready to have that conversation about coaching. So if nothing else, you will get clarity on something. You will walk away with an aha, you will walk away with a resource or two. I
Right.
treat it like a coaching conversation.
Yes. Yes. And where can they find out more about that?
Yeah, so that's at boldbodypeace.com. So either boldbodypeace.com for food and body peace coaching, or the BLDTHEBLD.com for joy and success coaching for leaders and founders. And that's where
Awesome.
we talk about courage and confidence. And again, there's overlap, but
Yeah.
if you're feeling more connection to really tackling relationship with food and body, that's a great entry point. And I have one-on-one coaching, but I also have a group and curriculum. And so there's a lot of what I have found very important is that community support around this.
Right.
Kind of as women, we need to rally around each other and hold each
Mhm.
other accountable to these new ways of being, these new ways of thinking, and holding those truths of that water that we swim in very up close for each other.
Right, right. And I'll put the links to those in the show notes so people can easily go ahead and grab those and get a hold of you. So as we wrap up today, is there like one thought or quote or anything that you would like to leave the listeners with?
I'll leave with actually two. So, women who trust themselves change the world. So, if you're really feeling this call to build your self trust, please do so, because frankly, we need it.
Mhm.
We collectively need women who trust themselves, who are really moving from a place of honoring their time, their energy, and their resourcing from an authentic place. So, please cultivate that self trust. And your body is the vessel to help you move mountains. It is not the mountain to move. So, really giving yourself permission to step back from this constant pursuit around body and
Mhm.
really fortify it, tend to it in a way that allows you to do that changing of the world or yourself or your community, whatever that might be.
Be the vessel that changes the
Mm-hmm.
world
Mm-hmm.
and embody that.
That's
That's
right.
so great. There's so much here. So go reach out to Andrea on, in both levels of leadership, or if you're more prone to the food and body, just reach out because there's so much there that we were not able to unpack in this short time frame that she can help you get to where you want to be, live out your purpose, and have that great relationship with your body and going out and leading the world. So thank
Oof,
you for
that's
joining
right.
me today, Andrea.
Thank you
I
for
really
having me.
appreciate it.
I'm sure you can tell from my voice. This is my passion. I'm so excited to have these conversations and bring more humans into the fold of this level of awareness within themselves.
That is absolutely true. You have a lot of passion and go after it with all your heart, everyone. Have a great day.